The final cut is a masterpiece, but the first draft is a war zone. This is between the frames. What you're watching doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like lost footage from a nightmare. In 1998, Steven Spielberg set out to film the D-Day landing at Omaha Beach not as a cinematic spectacle, but as a visceral, first-person document. He wanted the audience to feel the sand, the water, and the terror, as if they were storming the beach themselves. The result was a 24-minute sequence of pure, unvarnished chaos that left audiences breathless, traumatized veterans who lived through the real thing, and forever changed the language of war on film. This wasn't just directing, it was an act of historical resurrection. How did they pull it off? The secret to its shocking realism began with a single, radical idea: make the camera a weapon and a victim. Cinematographer Janusz Kamiński, Spielberg's longtime collaborator, was tasked with shattering the polished look of Hollywood filmmaking. His primary tool was the shutter angle. Most films are shot with a 180-degree shutter, which creates a smooth, natural motion blur with each frame. Kamiński threw that rulebook out. He and Spielberg opted for 45 and 90-degree shutter angles. This drastically reduced the motion blur, creating a crisp, stuttering, and deeply unsettling effect. Every explosion, every frantic movement, every soldier falling feels disjointed and brutally sharp. It mimics the staccato, hyper-aware state of a mind pumped with adrenaline. But they didn't stop there. To further degrade the image and make it look like authentic 1940s newsreel footage, Kamiński took the protective coating off the lenses of his Panavision cameras. This allowed light to flare and bounce inside the lens, creating a hazy, washed-out look with harsh contrast. It was the opposite of the pristine, beautiful cinematography that usually wins awards. Then, in post-production, they put the footage through a process called bleach bypass, which crushed the blacks and desaturated about 60% of the color. The result is a palette of sickly greens, cold blues, and muted earth tones, punctuated only by the vibrant, horrifying crimson of blood. The image itself feels wounded, contributing to the feeling that you are watching something that should have been buried. If the visuals put you on the beach, the sound design puts you inside the soldiers' heads. Sound designer Gary Rydstrom, another legend in his field, faced the challenge of creating a soundscape for an event that was, by all accounts, pure noise. A traditional approach would be to layer explosions, gunfire, and screams into a loud but ultimately coherent mix. Rydstrom did the opposite. He created what he called subjective sound. He recorded real World War II-era weapons, like the M1 Garand and the Milligram 42, to get the authentic cracks and thuds. But then he distorted them. He blended the high-pitched zip of bullets with animal screams to create a primal sense of danger. More importantly, he used sound to reflect the psychological state of Captain Miller, played by Tom Hanks. When a shell explodes near Miller, the world goes silent. All we hear is a muffled, high-pitched ringing, the sound of tinnitus, of shell shock. The audio drops out, forcing us into Miller's disoriented perspective. The chaos of the outside world is suddenly replaced by the terrifying quiet of internal trauma. This technique, of pulling the audience out of the action and into a character's sensory deprivation, was revolutionary. It conveyed the terror of combat not just through what you see and hear, but through what you suddenly can't hear. Authenticity was paramount. Spielberg brought in Dale Dye, a retired Marine captain and Vietnam veteran, as his military advisor. Dye put the principal actors through a grueling, multi-day boot camp to strip away their Hollywood personas and forge them into a believable unit. But the consultation went deeper. D-Day veterans were brought to the set. They walked through the meticulously recreated chaos and shared their memories. They confirmed the terrifying accuracy of the sound design, recounting how the distinct buzz of certain bullets would make them dive for cover. Their first-hand accounts shaped the final edit, ensuring that the sequence honored the reality of their experience, not a glorified myth. One veteran reportedly told Spielberg that the only thing missing was the smell. Logistically, staging the Omaha Beach sequence was less like a film shoot and more like a military invasion. The scene was filmed over 4 weeks on Ballinesca Beach in Ireland, which bore a striking resemblance to the Normandy coast. The production team moved 400 tons of equipment onto this remote beach. They built massive concrete bunkers and deployed Czech hedgehogs, the iconic X-shaped steel obstacles, across the sand. Over 1,000 extras, many of whom were members of the Irish Army Reserve and historical reenactment groups, were hired to play the American and German soldiers. Every single moment was a piece of brutal, complex choreography. Special effects coordinator Neil Corbould orchestrated a symphony of destruction. Over 40 barrels of fake blood were used, pumped through hidden hoses to erupt from squibs attached to the actors. Dozens of amputee actors were hired to portray soldiers with horrific, realistic injuries. Each explosion, each bullet hit, each man falling was precisely timed and executed. What looks like pure, random chaos on screen was, in reality, a meticulously planned ballet of pyrotechnics, special effects, and performance. The goal was to achieve what Spielberg called controlled chaos, to orchestrate a scene so perfectly that it appeared completely UN orchestrated, capturing the psychological truth of the pandemonium. When Saving Private Ryan was released, the impact of the opening sequence was immediate and seismic. Audiences were stunned into silence. Veterans hotlines saw a spike in calls from former soldiers triggered by the film's unflinching realism. Some critics argued it was too intense, too graphic for mainstream cinema. But for most, its honesty was its greatest strength. It didn't glorify war, it deglamorized it entirely, presenting combat as a brutal, terrifying, and deeply human tragedy. Before Saving Private Ryan war movies often felt like adventures. After it, they became experiences. The film's techniques, the shaky cam, the desaturated colors, the subjective sound design, became the new visual shorthand for authenticity in action and war films for decades to come, from Black Hawk Down to Dunkirk Star. It raised the bar for what it meant to portray historical events on screen, proving that the most powerful way to honor history is to represent its human cost with uncompromising truth. It wasn't just a scene. It was a watershed moment in cinema that forced us to look, to listen, and to remember. Thanks for watching. If you want more deep dives into the films that changed filmmaking, make sure to subscribe to Between the Frames. We'll see you in the next one.